We move on to the next question. It's also directed at the Deputy President. It comes from Nkosi Pathikile Holomosa of the ANC and deals with the independence of the judiciary. He wanted to know what steps had been taken to ensure a balance of power between the three arms of government. He also asked what steps had been taken to guide the judiciary to exercise judicial restraint in their decisions without applying any other measures to control the judiciary. The Deputy President said the powers of the executive, parliament and the courts were clearly set out in the Constitution. He was confident that each of these bodies respected the powers assigned to them. The Constitution also empowered Parliament to exercise its oversight role over the executive. With regard to the judiciary, government continued to enact legislation and implement programs to enhance the independence of the judiciary. One of the significant safeguards against encroachment is the Constitutional Court itself.
The Constitution 17th Amendment Bill and the Superior Courts Bill, which are currently being considered by this Parliament, are the latest legislative measures introduced by the government with the view of strengthening the judicial arm of the state to exercise this delicate act of balancing the interplay among the branches of the state. These bills in the main seek to provide a constitutional basis for a separate judicial governance framework under the Chief Justice as head of the judiciary, to give full effect to our separation of powers, which is essential for the rule of law. Pending the finalization of these bills, the President has, through a proclamation published in August 2010, declared the Office of the Chief Justice as a separate entity from the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development, and thereby paving the way for the envisaged judicial governance framework. I am pleased also that Parliament approved the Code of Judicial Conduct in August this year, which was published in the Government Gazette on Thursday, the 18th October 2012. The Code will go a long way in ensuring that the judiciary is responsive to the needs and aspirations of a democratic South African society.
In a supplementary question, Mr. Holomosa wanted to know what would happen if the Constitutional Court itself failed to do its job.
But what do you make, Mr. Deputy President, of the situation where the Constitutional Court itself transgresses its own boundary, considering that it is the only and the last bastion of, rather the last refuge of a citizen who feels wronged by other arms of state? What happens when that very last place of refuge is unable to discharge its responsibilities in terms of this separation of powers principle? Unfortunately,
Honorable Holomosa has not given me any example of the instance where the Constitutional Court has failed to execute its own responsibility. However, if I understand the question that it did not pose, is essentially raising recourse, the question of recourse. What happens if the Constitutional Court is approached and its response or order or award still does not satisfy an aggrieved party? What recourse does such a party have? Honorable member, I think it's I can leave to the practitioners who obviously out of practical experience will have to contribute towards the jurisprudence of our own country. It's a question that needs to be debated further as to whether when you have an apex court such as the Constitutional Court, there should still be recourse to another institution for relief.
The DA's Shadow Minister for Justice and Constitutional Development, Dean Smuts, said Holomosa's question to the Deputy President was shocking. She warned that if the executive branch was to give guidance to the courts, it would be a death sentence for the judiciary.
Ma'am, it is clear that it is the Honourable Holomosa who needs guidance and not the judiciary. And the Honourable the Deputy President has given him some guidance, but was much too nice about doing it. I have been wondering ever since I saw this shocking question whether the Honourable Holomosa, my colleague, has perhaps been led astray by the thinking of the Honourable Ramatlodi, who called on the courts earlier this year to exercise judicial restraint, or constraint as he called it, after the DA won 2 cases on rationality review. Now, I don't know, because the Honourable Holomosa hasn't been brave enough to give the example of the case which he considers to be a transgression of the boundaries of jurisdiction of the Constitutional Court. He hasn't given an example. For all I know, it might be the Democratic Alliance's latest win in that, the highest court in the land. But, sir, the Honourable the Deputy President has given him the answer. It is the Constitutional that sets the parameters of the court's powers. And if the executive branch ever tried to guide the courts, they would kill off the Constitution. Now, sir, I wonder whether...
Your time is up, in fact.
Oh.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next question came from the Congress of the People's Alfred Khanare. Holomosa's question also caught him by surprise. He said its implications could very well cause further eroding of investor confidence.
The fact that a senior member of this parliament is asking the Deputy President on ways and means to influence the judiciary is symptomatic of a very serious tendency in the ruling alliance. This tendency could further erode investor confidence, resulting in more job losses, which will fuel unrest and destabilize our country. The root cause of judgments against government are due to unconstitutional legislations promoted by elements in government attempting to bypass or undermine constitutional imperatives rather than any deficiency in the judiciary. That's why I hope Deputy President would like you to undertake to defend and protect the judiciary from any form of meddling, and this Deputy Minister, any form of meddling, manipulation or improper influencing, and direct his party's focus to understand and respect the principles of a constitutional democracy. The question is...
Thank you, Honourable Member. You don't have time for question. Honourable Member, you don't have time for question.
COPE Whip Julie Killian came to her colleague's aid, arguing that Mr. Khanare indeed posed a question to the Deputy President.
There's 1 minute for question, and I allowed more than 1 minute. I didn't hear the question. Are you saying there was a question?
I'm saying that there was a question.
What was the question?
Can the member please just repeat that one sentence where he asked if the Honourable Deputy...
Honourable Member.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, I've raised on a point of order. He asked the Deputy President if he can commit himself to stop further meddling.
No.
That is what he asked.
No. He didn't ask that.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, in that case, I would ask you to look at the record of the House and to make a ruling on the matter, because your current interpretation is incorrect.
Honourable Deputy President, did you hear the question?
The Deputy President said even though the question was preceded by a rather long preamble, he indeed was ready with a reply. He said government remained committed to protect the Constitution.
Yes, indeed, we are all committed to protecting the Constitution and defending the Constitution. All of us in the executive and this side of the House, we are committed to that. We remain committed to that. We will continue to protect and defend the Constitution. Thank you.
Never on a Sunday, says the Minister of Public Service and Administration, Lindiwe Sisulu. That's our story after the break. Stay with us.